The girl named Vera has been kept in captivity by the plastic surgeon Robert Ledyard in his mansion. Robert wants to develop a burn-resistant artificial skin that can also defend against insect bites. In the evening, Robert proposes his theories in a medical conference and urges the other scientists to join him in research. After the meeting, Robert returns home and analyzes the animal blood sample that he collected from a hospital earlier. Then, Robert goes to his room and observes Vera on a screen. After watching her closely for some time, he goes to check on her. Upon entering her room, he discovers that she has attempted to take her own life, and becomes completely shocked. He rushes her to his lab and patches her wounds. After gaining consciousness, Vera asks him how long this will last, but Robert doesn't answer. It is clear that Robert has been holding her captive for many years, in order to experiment on her. Robert lives in an isolated mansion with his housemaid Marilia and a few servants. Marilia is aware of Robert's experiments and Vera's captivity. In fact, Marilia has been looking after the mansion for a long time. During breakfast, Marilia gives Robert a gallon of blood, informing him that it was extracted from a live animal. After, Robert takes it to his lab and performs some experiments on it. In the lab, Robert has kept many insects and different blood samples for his research. Afterward, he extracts the artificial skin from its culture and carefully applies it to a headless model. He then transplants the skin onto Vera. After multiple burn and mosquito tests, he concludes that the skin is resistant to mosquitoes and fire. During another conference, Robert claims that he has successfully cultivated burn and insect-resistant artificial skin. He named it Gal. He also states that his invention will aid in the complete eradication of malaria. He lies that the experiment worked on a lab mouse, and promises everyone that it will work on humans as well. After his presentation, the chief scientist questions Robert about the name Gal, and the details of the skin producing. To which Robert replies that it's his late wife's name, who was severely burned. Robert also tells the scientists that he combined genes of pig cells to human cells, to make the skin harder, and more resistant to mosquitoes. Although, the practice is illegal. Hearing Robert's words, the chief scientist immediately orders him to stop his research, and threatens to report him to the board if he doesn't comply. Later that night, Robert returns home, walks into Vera's room and informs her that he's completed experimenting on her. Upon hearing this, Vera inquires Robert about her future, but the doctor doesn't answer. She then offers to marry him and live together, which makes him afraid and he rushes from her room immediately. Shortly after, Marilia advises Robert to get rid of Vera. She thinks Vera's resemblance to his deceased wife may create some problems in the future. But Robert tells her that he's not in a hurry, and instead requests her to fire all the servants to hide Vera for a long time. The next day, while the servants leave, a man in a tiger costume arrives at the gate. He reveals to Marilia that he is her son Zeka, whom she hasn't seen in 10 years, due to the complex relationship between them. Getting emotional, she allows him in, and offers him some food. During a meal, news of a bank heist flashes on the TV. Marilia finds out that Zeka is one of the robbers. When Marilia confronts him about it, he readily accepts it, and instead blames his colleague for not turning off the security camera. He tries to convince Marilia to let him stay for a few days. Then Zeka sees Vera on the surveillance camera, and is surprised by her beauty, and it looks like he knows her face. He asks his mother where Vera's room is, but she refuses to say anything and denies revealing Vera's location. Zeka binds Marilia to a chair, and starts searching for Vera. He eventually finds her room, and starts forcing himself on her. In the process, Zeka says that he's surprised to see her alive. Turns out that Vera looks exactly like Robert's deceased wife, Gal. At that moment, Robert arrives at the mansion, and finds the housemaid tied to a chair. He sees Zeka doing something terrible to Vera on the nearby screen. Enraged, he rushes to the room, shoots Zeka, and takes Vera in his arms. Surprisingly, Marilia doesn't blame Robert, even though he killed her own son. What's more interesting, she cleans up the murder scene on her own initiative. While Robert goes out to dump Zeka's body, Marilia informs Vera that Zeka and Robert were brothers, although no one knew about the fact. She says that Zeka was fathered by a co-worker, whereas Robert was born to Mr. Ledyard, under whom she previously worked. Mr. Ledyard's wife couldn't have a child, and the family adopted Robert. This means that she is Robert's biological mother, although he doesn't have any idea of it. Vera asked Marilia why Zeka acted as if he knew her. Marilia replies that he mistook her for Robert's wife, Gal, who looked exactly like her. Marilia continues by saying that Robert and Zeka had completely different childhoods. Robert was raised in a privileged family and went on to become a doctor, whereas Zeka grew up as a criminal on the streets. Robert and his wife Gal had a daughter named Norma, and the family was happy. However, everything changed 12 years ago, when Zeka committed a crime and arrived at their house. Marilia allowed him to stay in the outbuilding. No one could expect that he fell in love with Robert's wife Gal at first sight. They ran away from the house in a car, but got into an accident midway. Zeka ran away from the burning vehicle, leaving Gal behind. By the time Robert discovered her, she was barely alive, and her face was deformed. Even if his wife had betrayed him, he still loved her deeply, and he rescued her with his great medical skill. Robert took care of her day and night. He even removed all the mirrors from the house, so she wouldn't be able to look at herself. As time passed by, she recovered well, but her face couldn't be restored. One day, Gal heard her daughter singing in the yard. She went to look at her daughter. She mistakenly saw her face reflected on the window, and completely shattered her hope for living. In no time, she jumped out from the window and ended her own life. Her body dropped in front of Norma, traumatizing her for life. Marilia then says that Norma also took her own life by jumping out of a window. Later that night, Vera and Robert are about to make the adult thing, but Vera claims that the man from earlier had really hurt her, so the doctor stops. The two cuddle up to each other and soon fall asleep. In his sleep, Robert dreams about his daughter's demise. In the next scene, the movie goes back to 6 years before, where Norma is recovering from the trauma of her mother's death. One evening Robert and Norma attend a party, and shortly after she mysteriously vanishes. Robert goes looking for her. He notices a guy riding past him in a hurry. He finds daughter's shoe. Following the tail, he finds Norma lying unconscious near a tree trunk. When Robert wakes up Norma, she mistakes her father for the one who abused her, and starts screaming. Robert then wakes up suddenly to find himself drenched in sweat. At the same time, Vera dreams about a guy named Vicente, who works in his mother's boutique. Vicente has a crush on Christina, who also works in that boutique, and is revealed to be a lesbian. A bit later, he also attends the same party that Robert had seen in his dream. And now we see the situation from the other side. Norma meets Vicente. It's clear that the two like each other. There is a spark between them. After going inside the garden, they start making love. While they're at it, Norma begins to have an anxiety attack, and screams. She bites his hands when he tries to stop her, so he hits her face, making her pass out. Vicente fixes her clothes, then sits on his bike and rides away. Robert discovers his daughter. After a month from the incident, Vicente goes out for a ride on his bike. Robert follows him to take revenge upon Vicente. After chasing him through the woods, Robert crashes Vicente's bike. The guy regains consciousness, but Robert injects some sedative drugs into him, and abducts the guy to his basement. Afterward, a police officer informs Vicente's mother that they discovered her son's broken bike on a cliff. He further adds that Vicente may have fallen off the cliff, and been washed away by the sea. But his mother refuses to believe this, and insists that her son is still alive. The next day, Robert goes to a mental hospital to check on his daughter. But she refuses to accept that he's her father, and shuts herself inside a closet. She has developed a fear of all men, and only cooperates with female nurses. In the basement, Robert has tortured Vicente, by keeping him chained, and depriving him of food and water. One day Robert walks into the basement, cleans Vicente, and gives him food after shifting him to a better place. One day, Norma passes away, and to get out from her grief, Robert tries to indulge himself in work. Thus, he prepares Vicente for his new experiment, by shaving him and taking him to the operation theater. He also invites other doctors, and creates a fake statement of consent to perform vaginoplasty on Vicente. Here we get to know that Robert plans to transform Vicente into a female. The physicians successfully operate on him, and transform him into a female. After the surgery, Vicente wakes up to find that he's no longer a man, and freaks out instantly. Later, while Vicente is examining himself in the mirror, Robert arrives and provides him with the medical devices to enlarge his newly operated private organ. Moreover, Robert does regular checks on him, and helps him recover fully. In the process, Robert reveals that he abducted Vicente because of his sinful action with his daughter. With no other options, Vicente does everything Robert says, in the hopes that one day he will let him go. Years pass by. After a bunch of plastic surgeries, Vicente has become Vera now. Vicente is the Vera from the beginning of the movie. In the next scene, Vicente attempts to run away after getting well, but when Robert locks down the house, she tries to commit unthinkable. However, Robert immediately rushes her to his lab, and saves her. While stitching her wounds, he calls her Vera, saying it will be her new name. He then locks her up in a special room, where Vera spends her time alone, watching TV. To keep her mind, she tries to indulge herself in yoga. Understanding the need for a caretaker, Robert then invites Marilia, who had left working at the house 4 years before. When she arrives at the place, he instructs her not to unlock the door and to call him in any case of a problem. The movie brings us back to the present day. Robert and Vera are gradually getting closer. It seems like Robert's going to live a normal life with Vera. Marilia is displeased with Vera roaming around the house, but Robert even lets Vera join Marilia on a shopping trip afterward. Marilia warns Robert about the bad consequences of letting her free, but he doesn't take her word seriously. He believes that Vera loves him. Vicente's mother doesn't stop looking for her son for years. She still publishes a photo of her missing son in the newspaper. So, Robert's colleague comes to his home to show him a newspaper with Vicente's picture in it. He remembers doing vaginoplasty on him, and accuses Robert of lying to him about Vicente's consent. Right at that moment, Vera arrives at the scene, and defends Robert by saying that she gave her consent for the surgery, because she fell in love with Robert and desired to be a lady. The colleague then walks away, and Robert expresses his gratitude to Vera for keeping him safe. Later that night, while the two are making love in bed, Vera goes downstairs, saying she has brought a lubricating cream. However, she seems to have other intentions, as she takes a gun from a drawer and puts it inside her bag. Before going upstairs, she caresses the photo of her past, when she used to be Vicente. Robert hurries her up. With tears on her eyes, Vera kisses her photo and rushes upstairs. After arriving in the room, Vera points the gun at Robert, who becomes stunned by her unpredicted action. She then confesses that she lied about falling in love with him, and shoots him to death. Downstairs, Marilia hears the gunshot and rushes to their room, with revolver in her hand. Vera hides under the bed, and Marilia suffers the same fate as Robert. The next day, Vera goes to her mother's boutique, where she's attended by Christina. After walking around the shop, Vera reveals her detailed story to Christina, who bursts into tears after listening to her. Vera then proves to be Vicente in front of Christina, by showing her a dress from 6 years before. The movie ends when Vera speaks to her mother, saying that she is her son, Vicente. So, my friends, that was me recapping the movie The Skin I Live In. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, it's incredibly important to me.